Hi and welcome to Fashionable Flavours, my first episode. I'm your new host, John Zhang. So today we'll be making chili prawn linguine, and as you can see, I've picked all these wonderful fresh ingredients from borough markets in London. So my recipes will be healthy, tasty, delicious. I want to inspire you to be able to cook at home, but also make tasty, delicious meals that are easy and simple. Working as a model, I've always had to look after my body, so I've always tried to eat right, but I don't want to sort of hesitate on taste. So I think this first recipe will just introduce you to make healthy pasta dishes without all the heavy sauces. So let's start by showing you all the ingredients that I'll be using. So as you can see, with any dish, I always tend to have a side salad. So this is just a mix of different lettuce leaves. So there's spinach, there's baby lettuce, there's rocket. So all of this is much better than having, say, your simple iceberg lettuce. Then we have the cherry tomatoes. As you can see, these have been freshly picked from the markets this morning. Cherry tomatoes have a lot more taste than your average big boring tomato. Then we have asparagus. So asparagus has a lot of good health benefits. As you can see, most people don't like to use it because they think it takes too long to cook. So I've chosen the smaller asparagus because they're easier to cook and they're much more tender. And I always just like to have baby spinach on hand just to sprinkle over any of my dishes. And we've got basil, as you can see. It smells wonderful. It's just been picked from the markets this morning. Some fresh lime, and as well as some lemon, fresh chilies. So when picking chilies, I normally tend to go for the bigger chilies because they're not as hot, but you can adapt the recipe to your own taste. Then we also have garlic. So garlic is always good. Whenever you're in the colder weather in London, it's always great to have lots of garlic on hand, but just make sure you're not kissing anyone afterwards. And here we've got some pine nuts. So pine nuts I just get from the supermarket, but they're delicious if you just give them a quick toast, and then you can just sprinkle them over your pasta dish at the end. And onions. So I've chosen these shallot onions because they're a lot easier to cook, they're sweeter, and they're not as boring as your plain white onions. As well as the smaller ones, which are the salad onions, or most people like to call them red onions. Now on to the protein. So I've chosen to use prawns today because prawns are always quick and easy to cook, high in protein, and they're always readily available from any of the supermarkets. However, if you don't like prawns, you can always adapt it to use chicken or other types of protein in this particular pasta dish. So I've chosen linguine pasta today. You can use any types of pasta for this particular dish, or even better if you want to make your own pasta or use fresh pasta, whatever you have time for. But as a busy professional, I normally have packet pasta on hand because it's easy. You take it out of the cupboard and you can whip this dish up in 15 to 20 minutes. And let's move on to the spices. So today I'm using olive oil. You can use any type of olive oil you like, but I normally go for the lighter color if you're cooking, and then the darker color if you're making a salad dressing. We've got your salt and pepper, which is just any salt and pepper is fine. And this is what's going to add the kick to the chili dish. So I have some hot paprika. You can use smoked or normal paprika, depending on your tasting, as well as some dried chili flakes to sprinkle over the top if you like that extra heat, which I know I do. So this is the recipe, and let's start prepping. So now I'll be showing you how to prep all the ingredients ready to throw it in the saucepan. So let's start off with chopping onions. So first of all, you cut off the ends, top and bottom, don't need them. And then, as you can see, you want to cut the onions in half, peel the skin off, and then we just want to finely dice the onions. So I'll show you an easy way so we can cut across. And then we just want to roughly dice them into small cubes. And just the same with this other one, right across, and then slicing across like that. So just nice even cubes. So we've got our onions chopped, and let's move on to the garlic. So I like to have my dish very garlicky, so let's use probably about, say, 3 or 4. So what we can do is you just give it a smash, and then just peel the skins off the garlic, just like this. And now we just want to finely dice the garlic into smaller pieces. So getting rid of all the skin. Okay. Moving on. So we've got the chili. So I'll show you a little trick. If you don't like it too spicy, you can remove the seeds from the chili. So this is the hottest part of the chili, and the seeds. So if you don't want it too spicy, you can remove the seeds. So I'm just going to show you how to remove one of the seeds. So get rid of them. And then what we want to do is we just want to dice it into small pieces. So dependent on how much you like chili, I think 1 will be plenty. So we've got the chili cuts. So now let's move on. So what I want to do is I want to add a little bit of some rind to this dish. It will just add a bit of an extra punch. So what we can do is we can just grate the rind just a little bit, like that. And let's use a little bit of the lime as well. So just grating. You can smell that wonderful aroma of the lemon and the lime. It will just give that wonderful taste. Okay, so now we've got our main ingredients. These are all prepped, so let's start with the cooking. So first of all, turn the heat on. So we just want a low to medium heat because we don't want to overcook our prawns. The prawns won't take very long to cook, maybe 2 to 3 minutes. So first of all, we want to add the oil into our hot pan. So maybe use about half of this, so maybe 1 to 2 teaspoons. And then we're going to save the other half to make a dressing for the salad at the end. So we'll let the pan heat up a little bit. So while we're waiting for that to heat up, we want to add the cherry tomatoes at the end. So we can keep them whole, or you can also cut the cherry tomatoes in half, just like that. So if you cut them in half, it releases the acidity and it gives it a much better taste. So now your starting ingredients are all prepped. So let's just pick it up and just throw it in. Just hear it sizzle. So what we want to do is we want to throw that into the hot pan. And then as you can smell the wonderful aroma that's already coming out from the garlic and the chili. So just give that a stir. You just want to allow that to soften, maybe 2 to 3 minutes. So as you can see, those wonderful flavors are just coming through. Chili, garlic, and onions just slowly frying in the pan. So that smell is just amazing. So while that's browning, we're going to start chopping some cherry tomatoes to garnish on top. So it takes a bit of extra time, however, it's well worth it. So let's just cut these cherry tomatoes in half. I've also chosen some wonderful yellow cherry tomatoes as well, just for added flavor and color. Makes the dish a lot more vibrant. No one likes boring food. So let's just chop these in half. Okay, so I like a lot of tomatoes, but you can add as many or as little as you want. So, alright, so now I would like to add a few pistachio nuts. This will just crispen them up a little bit, so we can just add a few to the pan. This will add a wonderful crunch and texture to the pasta dish. Okay, so I think that will be enough. So now what we want to do is we just want to toast these just so they're crispy, but then they'll just release the natural oils of the pine nuts into the dish. Okay, so dependent on how many people you're having over, I would probably go maybe half of this, because pasta does expand when it cooks and you don't want too much pasta in terms of the ratio to the prawns. So I reckon this is a good handful of pasta, and generally the Italians like to just drop it on top and just let it fall into the pan. Oops, here we go. That will just cook down. So while that's cooking, what can we do? We can prepare the salad to have it as a side dish once the pasta's cooked. So I'm going to show you how to make a quick dressing. So we've got the olive oil, and we're going to use some fresh lime and lemon juice. This will really complement the seafood. So what we can do is you can just squeeze the lemon into the olive oil. Generally I like to use my fingers just to kind of any pips will not fall into the dressing. As you can see, just squeeze. Okay. Now, what we can do is we can also add a bit of salt and pepper just for a bit of taste. And we'll just give that we can just give that a stir. So we'll just let that cook, and then onto the red onions for the salad. Some people don't like raw onion, but if you use these smaller red onions, they're a lot sweeter and they taste a lot better in salads. So highly recommend using these small red salad onions. Okay. So we want to just finely slice these red onions very finely. So here we go. Okay, and that's all done. So what we want to do now is we want to add the asparagus. Asparagus has a lot of good health benefits. I used to have a personal trainer when I was doing a lot of modeling, and he said after every workout, eating anything green such as asparagus, spinach is excellent for your health and your metabolism. So let's just cut a little bit of the ends off. Generally, this is the really hard stalky part which no one likes to eat. So now we'll just cut the asparagus into half. So as you can see, what we'll do is we'll now throw it into the dish. We'll let that cook for a bit with the rest. So stir fry that. Let's check on our pasta. Okay, so the pasta now is just melted in. We want to cook that for about maybe 8 to 10 minutes until it's al dente. When I was in Sardinia earlier this year on holidays, a lot of their pasta dishes are very simple with very few ingredients. So a lot of the time when you're cooking, you don't need to make heavy sauces, which are a lot unhealthy. Okay, so now while that's cooking and the pasta's cooking, we can now move on to our protein and our sauce. So I've chosen organic tinned tomatoes today. They're easy, they're cheap, and also it adds a wonderful flavor to the sauce. So what we want to do is we want to just pour this in, giving it a good stir. I can already smell those delicious flavors coming out. Okay, now let's move on to our seasoning for the sauce. So we have a bit of salt and pepper, I just generally put a little bit to start with. You can always add more salt, but you can never remove salt. So that's a little tip that I've learned while cooking, is to always taste your food before adding more seasoning. Now, let's move on to the paprika. So I'm using hot paprika, but you can use any paprika that you have in your cupboard. This will just add that extra kick to the sauce. Okay, that's already smelling wonderful. Now, I've used a blend of chili flakes and a bit of cracked black pepper. So whatever dried chili flakes you have lying in the cupboard, just add it all in. So I'll probably use about half, and then you can taste it. If it's not hot enough, then you can always add more chili at the end. So we'll just give that a stir. It's coming on nicely. Okay, so just let that bubble away. While you're preparing that, I'm going to show you how to make the salad. So just move the prawns over here. So we've got the lettuce leaves, and then you just want to sprinkle over the cherry tomatoes over the top. Presentation is everything. So what I'll do is I'll bring it over here so you can see. Oops. So just throw it on. I think a lot of the times people like to eat with their eyes, so visual presentation is very important. So as you can see, it's very simple. Lettuce, cherry tomatoes, and red onion. I mean, you can have it any time of the day. So let's go back. So now the sauce is cooking. We want to add the protein. So we've got fresh peeled prawns today, which I picked up from London Borough Markets. So let's just put them in. So we have about half a kilo of prawns here. This should be enough for the pasta dish. So we just want to let those prawns cook in the sauce. Now let's move on to the herbs. So what the herbs I've chosen today is fresh basil. I've also picked this up from the markets this morning. I got up very early to get to the markets because a lot of the times all the good produce is normally gone by, say, midday. So I like to make a day of it. I like to go pick up my ingredients and cook on the day so my dish is fresh, delicious, and tasty. So a lot of the times people say not to chop your herbs. So a trick I use is you can generally just pick the herbs off. You don't want the stalky bits, so just throw them away. So what I've done here is I've just picked all the herbs off the stalk. And a technique is I normally just like to rip it. So just rip it with your hands to release the flavor. Okay, so we've got our herbs ready for our garnishing at the end of the dish. Let's check on the pasta and see how it's cooking. So I'll just give that a quick stir. Okay, so I think it's going to take a few more minutes. So let's come back to check on our prawns. So at the moment the prawns are, as you can see, they probably need a few more minutes. You want your prawns just to be a light reddish color. You don't want to overcook the prawns. So let's just give that a stir. Generally, you don't want to overcook your seafood, but you don't want to undercook it because you don't want to give anyone food poisoning if you have guests over. So now that's cooking, we can start grating some Parmesan cheese for later, for when we garnish. So I love a lot of Parmesan cheese. It just depends how much you like Parmesan cheese, but I would say maybe half of the cheese. So we just want to grate that. Okay, so that's looking good. All right, so now we've got our cheese grated. We can check on our pasta. I think maybe another 1 to 2 minutes and it will be done. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll have another taste just to make sure that it's almost there. Okay, it's al dente. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna just turn the heat off. So that's turned off now. We can leave that in there for a little bit. So what we wanna do is, we wanna give the prawns one more stir. They're looking almost ready. And now, we can strain the pasta. So what we wanna do is, we wanna leave a little bit of the pasta water. It always helps to thicken up the sauce. So don't worry about draining all the water out of the pasta. So now we've drained the pasta. So we'll just bring it back here. We'll let that bubble away for another minute. So just checking again, just giving it a quick stir. The flavors are amazing. So what we want to do now is, we want to combine the whole thing together. So you've got your pasta and your prawns, just pour it all in. Yep, oh, that smells wonderful. Let's get that little bit. Okay, so now we've got the whole dish. What we want to do is, we just want to stir the whole lot together. As you can see, the pasta will continue to cook once you've stirred in all those wonderful ingredients. As you can see already, it's already looking wonderfully fabulous with all those beautiful colors, the prawns, the red cherry tomatoes. It smells wonderful. So now we want to get all our herbs. So we've got fresh basil. Basil has a very nice sweetness to it. However, you can use parsley, chives, whatever you have in the fridge. But I personally would recommend using parsley or basil for this dish. So now that's cooking away. It's almost done. So what I like to do is, I like to taste my food. So just maybe try a prawn if you're not sure. Let me see. So as you can see, it's pink and it's very juicy. So I think that's done. I'll turn the heat off. Just let that sit there for a minute or two, just so the flavors can infuse. And what I like to do at the end, just to give that extra health kick, is baby spinach. I love eating spinach. You can eat it as a salad, eat it on its own. So what I'll do is, I'll just sprinkle about a tablespoon of baby spinach into the dish. All right, that's done. As you can see, the spinach will just wilt and melt into the dish, so you don't need to cook spinach. Spinach is a lot healthier if you eat it raw. So we'll just mix that all up. Okay, so our dish is almost done. I'd also recommend tasting it just to see if it needs a bit more seasoning, like salt and pepper. Let me try a bit. Okay. All right. So I would probably just add a little bit more salt and pepper, just to add a bit more seasoning so it's not too bland. And I will probably put a bit more chili in at the end, because I like my chili linguine pasta to be very hot and spicy. Okay, that's looking wonderful. So we're almost ready to plate up. What I'll do is, I'll find a nice big serving plate. Now you've found your delicious serving plate, let's ready to serve up this delicious chili prawn linguine. Look at those wonderful colors. So let's serve up. So we've got a wonderful array of prawns, spinach, asparagus. So I reckon I'll just serve about half today. We've probably made enough for maybe 4 to 6 people, depending on how hungry your guests are. But I mean, I could probably eat, say, this myself. So what we want to do is, we want to put a few prawns on top. Lovely. So, all right. So now this is almost done. What we want to do is, we want to add the finishing touches. So I like to add grated Parmesan cheese just over the top. as much or as little as you like, but I personally like a lot of Parmesan cheese. So there you go. So now we've got our prawn chili linguine pasta, and let's not forget about our side salad that we made earlier. So this is a mix of lettuce, which I picked up from the markets this morning, cherry tomatoes cut in half, and also some salad red onions. And we've made a quick and easy vinaigrette with olive oil, lemon, chili, and salt. So what we want to do is we just want to give that a stir, and then we can just drizzle that over the top of your salad, or you can just have it on the side for your guests to put over themselves. There we go. All right, and just to make the dish look a bit more presentable and pretty, I like to also put a few cherry tomatoes on top. So let's just cut them in half. There we go. You can garnish with a few cherry tomatoes on top of your dish, and also see if we have any basil there. So maybe just if you've got a few more basil leaves, we can just put them on top. There we go, that looks delicious. So there you have it, my prawn chili linguine pasta with a delicious side salad. Easy, delicious, and I'm always guaranteed to please any guests. So thank you for watching my first episode of Fashionable Flavours on Zaiqa World, and please follow us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook. So stay tuned for the next episode where I'll be bringing you wonderful flavours. I'm your host, John Zhang. See you next time. Bye.